years ago I was at the Waikato Winter Show, and there was a guy demonstrating wood turning there. He turned some little bowls, and I was fascinated with it. I thought, wow, that's something that I'd like to do. And a few years later, I always kept that in the back of my mind. A few years later, I did a course at the Hamilton Tech. This has to be 40 years ago or more. I had a business selling hardware, so I got hold of the technical people, and I became agents here. And I bought half a dozen lathes, and which helped me get mine at a reasonable rate. And away I went, and I just sort of puddled along because I was working at the time. And eventually, when I retired, we bought the house here and built this workshop, this custom purpose-built workshop. And I started doing more wood turning and more wood turning. And I got to a stage of what are we going to do with this stuff? So Dot's ex-Aucklanders, so we started selling down in Cambridge here, and it wasn't very successful. And we started going up to Auckland, and we discovered there was markets up there that just specialised in New Zealand craft produce. And that was where the buyers went. So we got into the Titirangi market, and we had a permanent stall there. It was every month we went up to that market. And we got invitations to a lot of other markets that were happening around the town, around the city. And it finished up, we ended up going up sometimes 3 times a month. And after about 5 or 6 years, we just decided that we'd open a gallery here and stop going to the markets. From then on, we've just it's just boomed. The website has just well, it's embarrassing at times, the amount of stuff that's coming through. And we've sold stuff to all around the world. People, tourists coming into New Zealand here have found us. It's amazing just how they do find us. But now, it's what's happened with the website. Most of my time here is spent just doing commission work. I find the variety of products that I have to make challenging and exciting because it makes you think. And I feel I've got a creative mind, and I can pick up what a customer wants and how he wants it fairly quickly. And I haven't had any customer come back to me and say, sorry, that's not how I wanted it. And it's the variation in work that I've had, I've been asked to do. I've certainly learnt so much, taught myself so much by not refusing to do it. There's an instance when I first started, I remember people were making wooden spoons, and I thought, no, that's not me. I don't want to make wooden spoons, until a company came to me and said they're doing some medieval feasts, and could I design some wooden spoons for them? So I set to work and I designed about 6 different styles, and they took them away, and I thought they'd come back and choose one of the styles. Instead, they come back and said, I want 6 of these, and 10 of those, and 20 of those, and 15 of those. And that company has come back 4 times so far, and I've made 400 spoons for them. To me, that's an indication that never say no. Give it a go, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to work out how it can be made. So I find every time I'm asked to do something, if it's 1 or 2, I'll do twice as many as they ask. Because invariably somebody will see it and say, where did you get that from? So you can be one ahead. And as for what I like to do, there's nothing that I would put in front of anything that I like to make. I like making bowls, I like working on the lathe, I like working on the saws, the band saws, and thicknesser, just designing. It's all part of machining the wood down to what I want to make. No, well, this lathe here is my main lathe. This is the third lathe I've had. I started off with a technical 1500. It served me pretty well. And then I bought a DVR, one of the later shaped ones, not the earlier shaped ones. And I only had that for about 4 years. It frustrated me because I didn't like the swivel head on it. I felt it didn't lock in well enough. And I bought this heavy brute here, and it's just superb. It suits me because I do a lot of heavy work. My favourite wood, I guess, for working with and small stuff and bowls, and I find that the reamer is good for that, and walnut, the English walnut, is superb. I get a real buzz out of producing something that really looks special, especially in New Zealand woods. And I think we're one of the luckiest countries with a variety of beautiful woods we have here. There's no limit to what you can do if you've got a creative mind. If you want to make a paying hobby, woodworking as a paying hobby, it can be done. But I specialise in making useful stuff. I don't make fancy bowls or frilly bowls, stuff that's not useful. And I think that's probably the reason why I can sell this stuff. I joined the Cambridge Woodturners Club in about '86, I think, and I was treasury for 5 or 6 years, and then I retired and just become a member. And the last 3 or 4 years I'm back to treasurer again. But our club is very proactive. We get out in the community. We've got a good band room accommodation at the moment where we have our meetings. We've designed a lathe that we can pull apart within 5 minutes and put it in the van and take it into the street, demonstrate with it and take it home again. It's on wheels. And we've just made a community food store for the community house down, local community house here. We made it in a style of a Maori Pātaka, Maori food house. And that was something that we as a club did for the community. And there's lots of people come to us with little things to fix or repair. And I do that, it's just part of the job. And I don't charge for anything like that. I think it's something that all clubs should do to help the community. And I've had a number of youngsters come. I've had a 13-year-old comes and wanted to do woodworking a couple of years ago. He still comes in. I taught him how to do lathe work, and he's gone on to making fancy little boxes. It was a pity because at the schools they don't have the wood turning anymore, or woodworking. And I've had ladies here that have had to go at wood turning. In fact, I've got a lady coming in next week to learn how to, or have a go at wood turning. And that's part of the service, if you like, I think that the woodcutting club should give to the community. And you want recruits, that's the way to get them going. And I had 2 ladies here last year, and they came for about 3 weeks in a row. They were busy ladies, that's all they could do. But they went away feeling that they wanted to get their own workshop and learn their own lathe. They described it as being addictive. So, and I think it is. It's an addictive hobby. But there's dozens and dozens of crafts out there. And you go to some of these craft markets and the beautiful work that's being done in all mediums. There's a lot of talented people out there, and a lot of people that have never done any woodwork, like doctors or dentists and people like that. They've got an inbuilt talent that if they have a go, it's there. You don't have to be an apprentice for 3 years to learn. If you apply yourself, you can pick it up. That's the style of spoon that goes to the medieval feasts. There again, when I first started making those, I was doing it in a different way. Now I make them, I've got a jig, I make them up differently, and I do them a lot quicker. Way there, I was thinking, how big could I make a spoon? And so I turned this one, and there again, it was dangerous to do that because that's got to be cut out with it spinning this way. So you keep your ears tucked back. And then the other side, this part here, I turn it this way. Because that's all one piece there. It was a piece of 6 inches or 5 inches deep. You waste a lot of wood because all that's cut off there. But I've done a bigger one than that too. It's 12 inches. This is 12 inches diameter. It was made out of a 300 by 150. And the handle, it's a metre long. So it was spinning around in a 2 metre circle on the side of that DVR. And it took all the power of the DVR to run it. In fact, it got hot. I had to turn it off every couple of minutes to let it cool down. I made these bottles, and a full wine bottle inside there. As you can imagine, the wood around there is only about 3 mils thick, 3 or 4 mils thick. And they're turned in 2 pieces. It's joined here, and there's a little rebated groove there so that you can't see. And I've got a drill bit that drills the hole perfectly the right size of the bottle. And I shape this piece and get the neck right, and I glue it all together. So there's no indication of how the bottle got in there. That's a Remy one. This one's the black walnut. It's beautiful and a bit different. And but there again, making one of those, and somebody sees it and says they want one too. These are things that are popular for the tourists. A nice piece of scruffy old piece of swamp carry. You just put all the coins in, New Zealand coins in there. It's a memento to take home. Getting the recess for each coin, there's no drill bit. It's the same size as a coin. So you have to centre each one so that it spins around on a faceplate, and you counterbalance it so that you can cut that out in the centre, that one, you centre them all. The gavels, I've made so many of these. There's one particular auctioneer that sells thoroughbred horses. He buys half a dozen at a time. That's his style. It's his design. And he travels the world and he takes them with him and he gives them away as a gift. And a couple of times he's come back to me and said, oh, there's a young guy that's started up and he's doing great work. Can you make him a nice one? So make it out of something special for him. These are designed for a graduating lawyer, or he's been admitted to the bar. That's a gift for them, and they can put it on their desk, or or have it at home for a memento. They've been quite popular too. This is one thing that I designed. We call this a sponge. We're at a friend's place at one stage, and they're staying there, and they had a waste disposal, and they were using a wooden spoon to poke the stuff down. And I thought, that's a bit silly, so I designed this as undercut there. It can sit on the kitchen bench, and then it'll push the food down the hole. And they're quite a novelty thing. People have got a sponge. These are tui feeders that I've made. This is about the fourth design, I guess. I started making them, and I kept improving them. The idea being so simple to use that a child could actually use them. And yes, I keep making. I make a dozen or so, and I think, well, that'll be enough. I won't make any more. Within a few weeks, they're all gone, and somebody else wants them. I have to make more. I make bowls in different shapes, different sizes, depending on the piece of wood I've got. But they're not really my thing. But I enjoyed doing one with a nice piece of wood. You can see the grain in the piece, and it's not until it's finished you really appreciate the wood in the piece. But the ones I do more like to do is the ones with natural edge. That's more me. With anything that's got a natural edge on it, and as I say, the wood speaks for itself. But going to the markets, we've designed a lot of things we thought it would sell, and pretty well 95% of what we designed has sold. Some more popular than others. There's not many things that we've designed or created that has been a failure. So I think we've been pretty lucky that way. When I first opened the workshop, set the workshop, I put a bench like this right through the side here. And as things grew, and I needed lathes there, and then I needed more space there, I kept cutting pieces off the bench, and that's all I've got left now. But I put those two vices there, and I find it's extremely helpful. If you're putting a long piece, you can put them in between the two. The bench saw I've got here, I've had that for about 5 years. Took me about 5 years arguing with myself whether I could afford one or whether I needed one, this like this. And I should have done it a lot earlier than I did. It's a 3 horsepower motor. Most of my machines have got 3 horsepower motors in them. Because I find that the one I had before this, the motor kept getting hot and it would stop. There's my big lathe here. This is the third lathe I've had. And it's the one that's I'm most satisfied with. And I've got all my chucks under here. I've got all the Nova chucks, all different sizes. Most of them I've got 2 of each, because if I'm doing something, I'll do 2 at a time. And I can leave the chuck on the back of a bowl or whatever I'm using or doing. I can just use another chuck to make another one. And this router table here is probably one of the most used pieces in the workshop. I find it invaluable. And it's got the big router underneath there. It's a special router that fits on them. It's, I forget what you call it. An Australian one. It's a big router in there, and you change the bits, and it's much easier to work. And I've got all the bits over there. I can get them resharpened. It's not a problem, and it's safe to use. One of the things that I found when I first came in here, I had machines over here and machines over there, and this corner here was nothing, so it ended up being stockpile of odd bits of wood and everything like that. And I got to a stage where I felt it was just crazy. So now I try and keep any wood that I'm not working on outside. The inside here is just for wood I'm working with. These are things that I make a lot of. This particular pattern, I made half a dozen for a family in town. They were veranda poles, 8 foot long, and it was in a heritage home. And he came back to me last year and said he wants to put a little fence around the edge of the veranda, around 2 sides of the house. But he wanted them miniatures of the big ones I did. So I made 70 like that, all exactly the same. And I've taught myself how to make copies of, repeated copies of things. And I'm quite proud of that. But I stacked them up all around the table there, and every time I made one, I put it beside I had a measuring one. I put it beside it like that there, and checked it off. Everything was in line, and it passed. And I'm proud to say that there were probably only 2 that didn't meet the standard. It didn't match. But it's a case of thinking about what you have to do and concentrating on it. And of course, the old adage, practice makes perfect. And the other side of it is when you do stuff for people like this, when they come back to you and and say, that's great, or it's better than I expected, that really gives you a good feeling. It hadn't been finished. The faceplate goes on there, and then I screw heavy pieces on here to counterbalance it. So when it spins around, it's got to spin around that way to do that, hollow that out. And then I put this extra piece on here because the centre of the outside of the spoon is about there, right on the edge. So the spare drive goes in there and the tail sock goes in there, and it spins around this way. And you can shape it to the inside. You're doing it back to front as a bowl. Bowl, you do the back first and the finish inside. But this way, I do it that way. But now, that's for the bigger spoon. But on a smaller spoon, I now glue 2 pieces together, and it's in a spindle, and I'm making a perfect ball. And then I split it in half, and I put it back in a jig I've got there, and I spin it this way and hollow it out. And then, of course, once that's finished, you cut your handle out of that piece there, the shape of your handle. Visitors came, and we were out in the workshop, and they could push the bell, and the bell would ring out in the workshop. We would know somebody's here. But now we've got him by our front door, and he's our Jeeves. I'll get the biggest spoon I've made. That's all one piece. So that would be spinning around on the lathe like that. And then like that to do the back. The Dot's got a movie of it. And when it was spinning around on the lathe, like that, this is, it was 6 inches deep here. It was like an airplane propeller. And there was no dust in the rafters. Everything was gone. And I had it on the lathe. I had it counterbalanced. It was perfectly balanced. It wasn't throwing out. And to save myself getting caught up in this thing flying around, I put a big sheet of plywood here in front of me with a hole in the middle where this was. And as it went round, for a start, it was sucking the plywood in, and it was going like this. So I had to stop it quick and put more braces here, there, and everywhere, all over the place until it was rigid enough. And I got it hollowed out, and I took it back on the big lathe outside and turned it this way. And cut the handle, and I won't make any bigger ones. There again, you can see how the natural colour of the wood is just gone out honey colour. It's beautiful. Come on in. Do these, we call them glass totems. They stand in the garden. This one here, we've got it standing here. If the sun is shining from behind it, the colours all come up. When I first started, they're made of just any slab of wood, as long as it's not too wide. And you're going to need to be dry, of course. But when I first started making these, I went to glaziers to get them to cut me the round circles in glass. And nobody would do them. So I went back to the computer and I found a glass cutter in Germany. I could see the style of it. And I made one up for nothing. And all it cost me was the little blades, little cutters. I think I got a packet of 6 or something for $16 of these cutters. And I can now cut a circle from 40 millimetre diameter up to 120 millimetre diameter in increments of half a mil. And I've taught myself how to cut the glass. Some of them I put route leaves and branches on them. And yeah, so I find that really interesting to do, because you're being creative. You should work your design with your leaves and branches and where the glass is going. But as I say, there's no end of ideas that you can develop. This is the second one I made for a guy in Auckland phoned me, and their local clergyman was retiring, and that's a walnut handle and a Remo stem, or staff, you call it, and a bit of white Maori as a collar there. But there's a threaded piece of steel runs right through there to give it strength. So, but and that's all nicely rounded. You see how that handle is completely round. You can get that off the. I do that on the router table, and so you get a beautiful finish on it. And they say they're for discerning people. There's another model I had to make for a guy in Auckland. He had very big hands and he had to have a big handle on it. So it doesn't matter what you do. It's just, well, if somebody wants something, I can do it. And I say that the challenge gives you the experience too. There's no limit to what you can do. You just got to have a go. And I'm lucky, I think, because people ask me to do things. The average wood turner wouldn't get asked to do these outlandish things and get the experience.